Hey, what's going on, Leading Edge? And thank you for joining us for our weekly program, our Education Today. And today we have Mr. Abraham Jara, and who is a very good friend of Leading Edge. He
Yeah.
is he has probably been to every bowling event we've had, 90% of the birthday parties, and it's just and all the other celebrations as well. And what we enjoy about our company is that we are family oriented. And actually, Abraham went with us on our offsite retreat in
Yeah.
Carlsbad too, and we're just glad to have him there. And so today he's going to share some wisdom with us. So come on in, Abraham. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. Thanks for having me.
Good. Okay. Well, today we're going to be talking
Yes,
about
yes.
social emotional learning, student anxiety. We have students out there that may have special needs or may need to be diagnosed. And it's going to be a little bit more challenging now because we've had a couple of years in a pandemic. We had pretty much the year that in 2000, we pretty much shut school down at the end of March. And that was it. April, May were pretty much a wrap. And so they lost. That was a loss, pretty much a lost year. We came back in 21. We did a little bit better. I think we started the second half of 21 in person, which was good. And then 22 has been what it's been. And so there are a lot of students that are out there, a lot of parents that are wondering, how come my student can't catch on? And it's going to be a little bit challenging because we have to, look at the diagnosis for some that may have some learning disabilities that are truly, and some may just be very far behind, or what we call is below basic or far below basic. So we're going to talk about some of those things today. So hello, Kim. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How you guys doing out there in the world?
All right, good, good. So So why don't we start today with social emotional learning and student anxiety and all the things. We started talking about separation anxiety and things of that nature a couple weeks ago, but let's pick up on social emotional learning. So why don't you go ahead and lead into that, Abraham?
Yeah, we're definitely with social emotional learning. For those that don't know, I come from a mental health background. That's what I do on my everyday life. It's definitely kind of like you said, Rob. 2020, it kind of was like the year that was lost, like you said. Your school shut down. Everyone was kind of in a panic. No one knows what was going on, and any type of issues that might have come out with students. Their schooling was up in the air. They didn't know, were we going to go to school? Were we not? School's open, school's closed. Are we doing Zoom? It was a lot of uncertainty, which did kind of, uh, add fuel to the fire to these, any type of anxiety that kids might have. Parents themselves were like, what are we going to do? Where's our kids going to get their education? And then kind of 2021, schools kind of got together, said, all right, let's try Zoom, let's try, school online, see how that works. And it was really about like a 50-50 success rate. Some kids, attached to it, like no issues. Some were like, yeah, I can't do this. Like, this is very, overwhelming. And a lot of people didn't really know what to do. Now kind of transitioning back into school, it's surprising because a lot of kids, all they've known, the younger ones, all they've known so far for their educational lives was Zoom. Now they're coming back into school in person. They're like, okay, how do I behave? How do I act? How do I learn
Right.
without having the screen in front of me? And a lot of the times, it kind of lacks that social aspects of knowing how to behave in a classroom, knowing how to behave amongst peers. So it definitely threw a curveball. And then some became so comfortable with learning Zoom, they were like, hey, Zoom works for me. I never want to go back to a classroom. And here they are being put back into a classroom, and now they're not thriving as much as they were, when they were off. A lot of times, with this whole pandemic, it did kind of spark an uproar in mental health services, which is what we saw, at least in my everyday life with my job. I provide behavior services. I'm a behavior specialist for kids who have certain behaviors that, like you said, anxiety is one of the ones I work with the most. ADHD, depression, these are all things that I work with on a daily basis with students. And so going back into school in person, they're returning back from being in Zoom world into school. And now they're like, okay, on top of everything I have to deal with in my personal life with what I got going on, now I got to deal with school. And now they don't know how to deal with everything being put on their plate together. So luckily I brought some information today that can, hopefully help out some of the viewers out there. It's funny because I come across this information all the time. And it's really funny how I think it's such a common information that everybody knows about. And really, we talk to parents, and parents are like, I had no idea this existed. I had no idea this type of help was out there for my kid, for my students. So a lot of the times what I'm want to talk about today is the IEPs and the 504 plans. So what the IEP is, it's an individualized education plan. So what that basically means is it gives students with special needs, whether it be like a diagnosis of anxiety, ADHD, depression, or any other type of mental health illness, whether it be on the spectrum that requires extra help. It gives them special services by providing them an individualized education plan. So it basically alters their education plan and how they go to school and how they learn in class by offering them special services that are catered to their needs. And that's the
Right.
beauty of it. It's
Yes.
catered to what the student needs. So some of the things, some of the basic needs that are out there, they have behavioral medical needs. So like I stated, anxiety, ADHD, any type of required special accommodations. So the cool thing is, for example, if a child has ADHD, they can't just sit there and concentrate for hours on end. So by giving them an IEP that's specialized towards their ADHD, they're able to take specialized breaks. They're able to have maybe a one-on-one that can help them focus in the
Yeah.
classroom. They
Right.
are allowed extra time to complete their assignments. If the teacher says, hey, you got a big project due on Friday, you guys got a week. For them,
They get
they might get 2 weeks, 3 weeks, because it's, catered to them, to what they need in order to succeed, to finish the project itself. Now, it doesn't mean that they're not getting the same education. They are still getting the same education.
Right.
A little bit extra help to provide, the same amount of learning that they use. So they're still doing the same amount of work. It's just taking them a little longer, but we're letting them. And I think it's good because it doesn't,
Well, I think it balances the playing field,
there
because
you go.
Yes,
I've
it does.
I've had a number of students. So people out there, if you have students that are in high school, going to go to college, uh, the programs are set up in college as well. I normally
Yes.
get a form, an email from our student
Mhm.
services department, and it'll let me know. And what we'll do is we'll send a packet to the office over there, and the student can either go over there and work and take their time, or they just be allotted extra days or extra time, and it kind of levels the playing field because they are disadvantaged at that point, right?
Well,
Because we're building the lessons and learning at kind of one way, and if all things were equal, then everybody be able. However, folks who may have some sort of extra need,
yes.
we want to make sure that everybody has the same right to an education.
Well,
Correct.
I can attest to that because I actually through all my life actually I had an IEP.
Okay.
So I actually had I went to Grand Canyon University, and I definitely had a hard time because I'm used to sitting in front of my teacher. And Grand Canyon, you either in class or you're online, and I was an online student. So to have to read all the requirements and all that stuff, that was very difficult for me. So I had an extra push. My teacher gave me extra time to do um, everything, just about. So it's very helpful to be able to get that extra push, get the extra time. So those parents that where they think that their child is just acting like they don't know, that may not be the case. And as a as a parent and as somebody that also dealt with the disability as well, or the learning curve, I should say, don't just count your children out. You know what I mean? Make sure that you look more into it, because you may think that they're just like, where if they're learning something and they're like, oh, I don't remember, it's not that they may not, it's literally they may not remember. So you may need to check into getting them tested, and it's okay. It's okay to get them tested. It's okay to make sure that they have the help, because you don't want them to go get to high school and then they don't graduate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. It's better than not knowing.
Yes.
Yeah. And we bring up this information a lot to parents, and a lot of the times they're like, okay, this sounds great. How do I do it? And they don't know it. Which is what, I want to bring out to you guys today, on how to go about that, because it is something that, it's not really taught. It's not really told to parents, hey, like, if you think your kid is struggling, get them an IEP. No, a lot of parents have to do their own research and kind of figure out their own way and talk to
Right.
people. So though it's a little different in depending on the age of the student. So if they are going to elementary school, it is important for the parent to talk to either the teacher or the principal and kind of explain to them like, hey, I want to pursue an IEP. Because what ends up happening is the parent of the student has to write a letter to the school requesting an IEP. And in the letter themselves, they have to write their concerns, which, is like saying, hey, my kid is struggling and I see it because A, B, and C, and give examples of how they're struggling. Also provide any type of supporting documents that they might have. If they have a proper diagnosis from, a doctor saying that they have ADHD or anxiety or anything else that might be hindering their education, supply those supporting documents as well to the school so that it kind of reinforces their case. Now that's for elementary. If they're going to middle school or high school, a parent would want to talk to the counselors. Now the students counselors are obviously working more closer to the students. I know they have meetings, and they're anytime anybody needs to talk about their grades or what's going on, they always go to the counselor. So the counselors who they would want to be writing a letter to, and they're again provide any type of examples as to why they think they're struggling. Now, once the letter is received by the school and the school starts the IEP process, what they'll do is they'll get in contact with the school psychologist. Every district has a school psychologist. Sometimes their base of operations isn't at the school that the student might be going to, but within the district, they will go to the school because they work for the whole district.
Right.
The school psychologist will meet with the student, give them a series of testings and assessments. And basically it's usually based, on the academics as much as, free, because we want them to have, a free and appropriate education. And the good thing about this is that once a student has an IEP, no matter their age, it follows them until the age of 22 if needed.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a cool thing, that even at, 18, 19 in college, kind of like you said, him going to GCU, it could still help them out even in their later years, which is, great. Obviously, they have an IEP. I think it's like once a year, probably usually around 6 months, once a year. They'll check in and they'll have an IEP meeting just to kind of review and say, hey, like, is the services we're providing, is the help we're providing still being beneficial to the student? If not, they revise everything that's going on and switch, to any appropriate changes that are needed. One thing I do want to encourage anybody who does pursue an IEP is to make sure that they're really persistent. Now, obviously, a lot of those things, they write a letter to the school and they're requesting an IEP. The school, unfortunately, will do the bare minimum to provide an IEP, just because, you might not be the only one still wanting an IEP for your student. So the school is the one that's in charge of all this. So they're going to give the bare minimum. So it's very important that, these parents really push and advocate for their kids and advocate for the students that they get the help that they deserve.
Yeah.
If you're curious, if people are curious about like, hey, does my school offer, my kid's school offer an IEP? Any school that's, any public school that's receiving federal government funding is qualifying for an IEP. So any type of public school, any type of charter school. Private schools, unfortunately, do not fall under that. They might still, you can ask, they might still, but they're not obligated to provide IEPs as public and charter schools are.
Yeah. On that note, just for anybody out there, these things are pretty common, but sometimes they don't pop up until later. Like I'll give you an
Mhm.
example. My my son was in 11th grade in second semester, 11th grade, and I was teaching college, of course, as I've always have. So I left. He was working on a paper that was due the next day, and I come back 4 hours later, and he's only gotten a paragraph and a half done, and he was stuck. He was mentally stuck, and he didn't really. It wasn't like he got up and was fooling around over it. He was mentally stuck. He could not go any further, and that's when I realized that there was something wrong. I'm like, what? You're telling me I was upset? Like, dude, I've been gone for almost 4 hours. You're supposed to have this done, and I could have looked over it and so on and so forth. He's got, like I said, a paragraph and a half, maybe two at the most, of something supposed to be about 3 pages, and and I realized there was no reason for me to be upset because what he's dealing with was bigger than the moment, and he might have been dealing. He probably was dealing with it for a long time, and that was why he, wasn't performing at a high level. He was
Yeah.
still able to, get his work done and so on and so forth. But he'd always kind of, gaze off here and there, easily distracted. Um, and we got him in, got him an IEP, and that was challenging. And in 11th grade, getting an IEP, and then you going off to the other room, and I don't want to feel some type of way, but
Yeah.
overall, it was very encouraging for him. It worked. Uh, he graduated on time. He had a lot of his friends that didn't, but he was so glad that at the end that he just bought in and really understood and didn't try to fight that. So at the older ages, it's important as parents that we understand that hey, these things pop up, and if your student isn't performing, always start with the teachers at that level, really
Yeah.
see what's going on, and then talk to your student, and then get with the counselor. Sometimes the counselor in high school has a completely different opinion than the teacher. I've seen
Mhm.
this as well because they get a chance to really connect with the student on a one-on-one and get a chance to know them a lot better. The
Right.
teacher might have them for a semester, and then hey, they're gone. That counselor is going to be with them, for quite a while. So those are some things I'm just going to share that I went through. But yeah. So Abraham, talk about 504 plan.
So yeah, so the 504 plan, very similar to the IEP. However, the 504 plan is mainly focusing on kids who have health disadvantages.
Mhm.
So that's what the 504 plan is basically based on the health needs. So some examples of those would be, students who might be like type 1 diabetes, who might have some sort of neuro diseases that hinder them from the average education experience. So this is basically based on any condition that cannot be fixed by medication, in other
Mhm.
words. So it covers basically accommodations for medical needs. So if any type of like physical limitations or any type of accommodations need to be made due to a student's health, that's where the 504 plan. So that's the difference between a 504 and an IEP. Only disadvantage I would also say to a 504 is that it ends when a student's time in public school ends. So unfortunately, it doesn't follow them into those later years of college, like the IEP would. Other than that, it's still able to, provide different accommodations to a student's learning based on their health needs as well.
Okay. Oh,
Um,
that's good.
That's
That's
good.
really good. Yeah.
uh,
So what was the biggest challenge for you in inside of COVID, and what are some of the things? How are you approaching this school year? And is there any? It can be the same as last year. You're looking for a little bit more optimistic, or what do you think?
uh, I am looking a little bit more optimistic, mainly for the fact that now coming back from such, harder school years and harder times, kids and students and, parents are also kind of not denying or not shying away from the fact that a student might have ADHD, might have anxiety, might have
Mhm.
depression, might have something that's hindering their education. A lot of times prior to the pandemic happening, we got a lot of pushback, a lot of no, my kid doesn't have that. No, they're fine. No,
Mhm.
they're just not focused enough. They're They don't want to
Mm.
believe that it could be something that's out of their control that's affecting them. Now that people have, gotten that time to be home and really see for themselves how they struggle. Now it's okay, my kid needs help.
Yeah.
What can you provide? I need to get my kids services. And I know, IEP requests have shot up so much because now people are starting to realize there is that help out there. There is that, that resource that they can help their students. And now people are more embracing it, and which is good because it's less pushback on my end, because at the end of the day, I just want to help the student, be the best that they can. So now instead of, having to have pushback with the parent or the school or the teacher, they're embracing it. One of the issues we had is with my company, we had a lot of pushback through districts that they didn't want us coming onto their campus. They didn't want us providing services at their schools. I don't know if they were just, hey, we don't know who you are. Why are you coming onto our schools? They were giving us pushback. Now we
Wow.
got districts that are saying, hey, we need you guys. Come, welcome, provide any type of service you need, because
Wow.
there's such a high demand for the help that these students need that they don't have enough resources to cover it.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
now, now it's great. It makes my job so much easier, where it's like, okay, cool. I'm seeing kids in school and I'm seeing firsthand the struggles, but I'm also seeing firsthand, the progress that they can make with the right help, with the right sources. And that's usually what brings the most joy out of my job, when I'm able to genuinely help a student and just be like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna teach you the exercises you need, even though you might have anxiety, even though you might have ADHD.
Mhm.
I'm teaching you the tools you need to succeed in the classroom. And when their grades start going up, they're going from D's to B's. To me, that's progress. It's their hard work,
Yes.
but it makes me feel good knowing that they're receiving the help that they need, whether it's from me or somebody else. As long as they're receiving it and it's available to them, hey, that's fine with me. That's all I want.
That's
You know,
good.
I'm glad you said that, because there's sometimes, the leadership dynamic, and when we have people involved, right? I've seen this in education a lot of times where people wanted it's got it's only for me, and it's like, no, we're doing the same work. Let's help the student,
Hmm.
and let's all pull the rope together. It doesn't have to be, this can only be done by you. No, we have to pull together.
Right.
There's a shortage of resources. Oh man, some of these school districts I've seen, not in California but in other states, hey man, they're putting a dog catcher in there. If they have to, somebody who can sit in the classroom and do, answer the phone or whatever, because there's such a shortage and it's just ridiculous. But that's the time we live in. So everybody out there, now is the time to stand up and pull the rope, and help in education. We really need you.
Yeah.
But on one end, I'm hearing there was a positive part when it comes to COVID, because now they're not shying away from, if you get what I'm
Mhm.
saying, because a lot of times when we don't want to, a lot of times parents don't want to accept that our children may need a little more help. They say, no, my kid is good. My kid is good. They didn't, they, what's the word I'm looking for? They basically shun it away.
Yeah.
But now after being around and seeing that side, they can say, you know what, I need to be that parent that steps up and be involved. And I find that to be so. COVID, and a lot of people say, well, there was a lot of bad things that happened for COVID, but when it comes to our students, in this instance, it was a positive. So I look at it as a positive portion, because now our students are going back into their education, focusing on getting help and being able to be helped by not just the parents, but the faculty, where the faculty is like, wait a minute, I noticed something. They may need a little more help here.
Yeah.
So I find that to be critical, because a lot of times, sometimes, unfortunately, on the faculty side, they say they care, but sometimes they don't. And now we have those that are actually more involved, where they are more sensitive to that part, because that's all it's about anyway. It's about our student, making sure our students and our children are taken care of in this area. So I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think another thing that was, benefit, the positive silver lining that they come out of the pandemic is, the stigma behind, you know, mental health and the education and with students.
Mhm.
It was sort of broken in the fact that, you know, a lot of times unfairly, teachers were being blamed. Oh, well, this teacher's not doing a good enough job teaching my kid. They're not doing it right. They're not, you know, and teachers are kind of getting blamed, going back into being, you know, having to do homeschool, having to do school on Zoom and stuff. Parents started seeing that, okay, it's not the teacher. My kid can't focus for some other, you know,
Yeah.
some other reason that has nothing to do with schooling and stuff. I need to get this checked out. I need to see what's wrong. Why can't they sit down? Why can't they accomplish the most simplest task? And that's, you know, it started breaking that stigma and started opening up a lot of eyes. And like I said, that's the benefit that now we come back when school's full engaged. And now districts are just hounding us. They're like, we need your help. We want you here.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's still a few, I know at least 2 districts off the top of my head that are still not cooperating. I don't know what their reasoning is. They're just very, no, can't come to our schools, you know, which, you know, again, it does, unfortunately, does kind of hinder some of the services we can provide, you know, to some of these students. But, you know, for example, if I can't go to their school, I can only see the student at home. But if they need the help in school is where they're struggling. That's the kind of rough part, you know. It's like, I want to see this kid at school because that's where he's struggling, but the school's not letting me. And that's
Yeah.
where I do, you know, kind of like Kim said, we got to stand up and you know, advocate for our students. And that's why I do want to tell parents, you know, if you do go to these, you know, in this district, in this school, and seek out these services, advocate for your student, for your kid, that, you know, these districts start, you know, embracing these services that are available to them.
Mhm.
You know, we want to go out there and help them, but if they're not letting us, I mean, our hands are tied, unfortunately, because they have the ultimate say.
So I have a question for you.
Yes.
When it comes to, because Rob, I know you said your son, um, would it be in high school? If they're in high school, they would go to the counselor?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And then in elementary school, they would talk straight to the teacher and the
Teacher
principal.
and the
Teacher,
principal.
principal.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
once you get to middle school, you want to talk to the counselor.
Yeah, middle school and
Right.
high school definitely stick to the counselor. Like you said, they have that bond because usually, you know, throughout all the years of high school, all the years of middle school, they have the same counselor that's keeping tabs on them and can kind of pull up the records and look at, you know, any type of progress they made. Elementary, of course, you know, changing teachers every year, it is a little bit more tricky. But again, those were the ones that would make the calls in regarding like an IEP or any type of services.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
And
That's
one,
good.
and one parting shot for parents out there. Just because your kid is not distracted on PlayStation and video does not mean that they don't
Right.
have other issues. So don't get
Right.
it twisted.
That's good.
Definitely.
So
And I would also
That's a good
encourage
point.
I would also encourage teachers and parents to, like, yeah, so your kids, you know, playing PlayStation, learn to use that as an advantage. You know, there is a lot of, you know, a lot of help out there now that's catered into like an electronic version because they see kids, you know, do favor electronics sometimes. Cool. So then let's make it, you know, educational. So there are a lot of
Yes.
resources out there, a lot of different ways you can, you know, use it to, you know, your advantage. And if it's what the
Yeah.
kid likes, use it, and that, you know, it's gonna spark their interest and their engagement. I do want to plug in a website that you know, that we use that's actually pretty informational for all parents stuff. It's called understood.org. So if you go to understood.org, it does have a lot of good information on how to request an IEP, as well as the different
Nice.
as long as the different accommodations you can seek.
oh, beautiful.
Awesome.
Man,
Awesome.
that's real helpful. Real
Thank
helpful.
you. Kim, that was good. That's good.
Yeah. Hey, Brand, this was fantastic, man. We got a. It's so funny, is it, man? We didn't really know that you got the keys, man. This is
Man,
great.
you dropped a
Well,
lot of keys today.
I don't know.
Thank you
Yeah.
for that.
yeah, no, definitely. I just want to spread it all out because I think, you know, the more it's available to people, you know, that's how we beat this thing. You know, you got to be
Mhm.
informed.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
Well, let's do it again. That's sometime soon, man. There, there's some other areas I want to go into with you, but let's get you back here again soon. Maybe in a couple of weeks we'll get you back for another one.
Yeah, I appreciate it. You let me know.
Okay,
Well,
man.
listen, let me do my little shout out real quick. So listen,
right.
everybody, make sure you guys go to Leading Edge, and make sure you go to our page. Go ahead and like the page, so you can get your notifications. If you are in looking for some assistance, make sure you guys check out Abraham, right? Check out the information that he just shared so that you can get the help and the services that you need.
Mhm.
We want to make sure our students and our children are being taken care of properly at home as well as at school. So we
And-
want to make this easy for them, easier, I should
Yeah.
say.
And at Leading Edge Learning Center, we do work with IEPs. We do sit in
Yes.
on IEP meetings as well. So we can
Yes.
get the information, and we can advocate and make sure that the information, so the student is being supported properly. And so that's something we do. So feel free if you need to reach out, if you have any questions or concerns or things of that nature. And then likewise, if you need to speak to Abraham, we can get you in contact with him as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Abraham. We appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me, and I look forward to coming back.
All right.
Yes, sir. All right.
Absolutely.
Well, guys, thank you for joining us today with Education Today. We will be here next week. All right. You guys have a good day. Thank
All
you.
right.
Have a good one.
Okay.
All right.